Good day, everyone. Welcome to the first lecture of the subject 16th century poetry. The topics of discussion that we are going to be discussing today are as follows. الأمور اللي راح نناقشها اليوم معكم هي التالي: Literature and its branches، يعني الأدب وأنواعه الرئيسية. Difference between prose and poetry، الفرق بين النثر والشعر. Literary timeline اللي هو العصور الزمنية مقسمة بحسب مادة الأدب، أو خلينا نقول المواد الأدبية. من ثم نتحدث عن الكتاب اللي راح ندرسه the syllabus. Then we are going to talk about the historical background of the 16th century. And then we are going to talk about the negative side of the 16th century, or the history of the 16th century, and the positive side. يعني القرن السادس عشر أكيد النبذة التاريخية ستكون عبارة عن نبذة سلبية ومن ثم إيجابية. Okay, let's start with the first thing, which is literature and its branches. Okay, now we have literature, okay, الأدب has two major types. Okay, this is a general division. هذا التقسيم بشكل عام، ممكن تلقون تقاسيم أخرى لكن بشكل عام هذا هو المعتمد. So literature has two major subsections, which are prose and نثر, poetry, الشعر. Prose, we can have several examples, okay? There are more examples, but some of the examples of prose are novel, drama, and short story. And I have told you how to pronounce these things, right? We said DR, we say j, نقول drama and not drama, okay? هذه المسألة ما أريد أسمعها اللي هي DR، نقول drama, okay? So, in short, we have literature has two major subsections, prose, poetry, not a TR, che, and subsections of prose are novel, drama, and short story. Okay. So this is where we will be working on 16th century poetry. Okay, هنا راح نشتغل احنا النثر ما راح نتركه على الأساتذة الأفاضل الآخرين. هنا احنا اليوم نتحدث معكم عن البوتري. Okay, so what is the difference between prose and poetry? How can you differentiate? شلون أقدر أني أميز بين النوعين المختلفين؟ Well, you have two major things that you can focus on. عندكم شغلتين رئيسيين اللي ممكن أنتوا تميزون بينها خلال النثر والشعر. So البروز هنا البروز is a form of language based on grammatical structure and the natural flow of speech, which means that prose, when you see that it is written, من تشوفون نص مكتوب أو نص أدبي مكتوب، شنو؟ نص أدبي عبارة عن جمل، okay, based on grammatical structure، يعني الجمل تكون مكونة حسب الأسس النحوية. اوكي، يعني من افتح الجمل او من اشوف الجمل اجي اركز عليهن القى subject verb object الى اخره من القواعد النحويه. اوكي، يعني تم تشكيل الجمل باستخدام او بالاعتماد على الجرامر. اوكي، so we have a grammatical structure going on here. اوكي، هاي بالنسبه لاي روايه، افتح روايه القاها مرتبه الجمله بترتيب نحوي. اوكي، اما الشعر typically contains a metrical scheme and often some element of rhyme. إذن الشعر مو شرط إنه الجمل تكون أو تعتمد على ترتيب نحوي، لا، الترتيب شنو تكون؟ على هيئة وزن وقافية، يعني تكون احتمال الكلمات مقدمة ومؤخرة، أوكي، يعني تتقدم على كلمات أخرى أو كلمات تتقدم أو تتأخر قلنا. أوكي، so هناك اختلاف في الترتيب. هنا ممكن إنه نخترق القواعد ونعتمد على الوزن والقافية أو أي قانون شعري آخر. أوكي، يعني الجرامر هنا مو أساسي. بعد فرق رئيسي بين البروز والبوتري، أن prose tends to or to comprise of full grammatical sentences building to paragraphs. إذن هنا أنا عندي الجمل هنا كيف ترتب؟ ترتب على هيئة paragraphs يعني مقاطع. من أفتح أي رواية أي مسرحية راح ألقى أنه المسرحية أو الرواية مقطعة إلى خلينا نقول مجاميع معينة أوكي تحتوي على جمل مترابطة نسميها paragraphs أوكي. أما poetry شلون يكون تشكيل lines تكون mostly poetry includes lines that compile into stanzas. إذن هاي الجمل راح تكون مقسمة على هيئة stanzas أوكي. يعني المقاطع في النثر تسمى paragraphs المقاطع في البوتري تسمى stanzas. So مختصر مفيد prose تعتمد على الجرامر في تشكيل الجمل البوتري تعتمد على الوزن والقافية البروز تعتمد على تشكيل الجمل وترتيبها حسب المقاطع الباراجرافز البوتري تكون ترتيب الجمل على هيئة stanzas أوكي. لتوضيح الفرق أكثر ممكن أن ننتقل إلى هذه النصوص. من أجي أشوف هذا النص مال بروز شلون عرفت؟ تشوفون ترتيب أكو مقاطع أوكي هاي أول شيء. من أشوف الجمل هنا okay when I see the sentences right here I see that we have subject the adventures of Tom Sawyer هنا هذه كلها subject is هذا الفعل just a tale اللي هو object. إذن هي هاي الجمل كلها مرتبة على اليمن على هيئة grammar okay. They have set the grammars into position and collected into paragraphs. إذن هاي المقاطع هنا تسمى paragraphs. أما هنا أعرف أنه هي قصيدة أيضا مقسمة مثل ما نشوف لكن شنو الفرق؟ الفرق أنه الجمل ما معتمدة اعتماد نحوي كامل okay. Come live with me okay and be my love and we will all the pleasures prove okay. هسه هنا لو نشوف الجملة الثانية هنا تشوفون we will okay نعرف انه subject verb بس هنا شو نسوي all the pleasures تمام هنا all the pleasures this is an object okay and prove الفعل هنا جاي بالأخير اللي هو هنا this is not acceptable if we were talking grammatically okay لازم هنا نقول and we will prove all the pleasures okay الفعل لازم يجي قبل الأوبجكت أو قبل هذا الظرف so هنا صار تقديم وتأخير إذا ما اتبعت القوانين النحوية so this is poetry now we know that it's poetry. الدليل الأكبر من هذا اللي هو if we see the last words we see that they rhyme okay أكو هنا وزن وقافية love prove fields yields rocks flocks falls madrigals roses posies إلى آخره. So now we know that there is a difference. If we see the last words of this text they are not built to be rhyming okay they are just grammatical sentences compiled into paragraphs. This is actually poetry because, first of all, there is no grammatical structure that is forced on the sentences and we have a rhyme here. So I hope now you know the difference between prose and poetry. After this, we are going to talk about literary timeline. So now we know the difference between poetry and prose, but both have or share the same literary timeline. يعني الأزمنة تتضمن literature بشكل عام. That's why I call it literary timeline and not poetic timeline. So, prose or poetry can be divided into several time periods. Okay, حسب الوقت ممكن أن نقسم الأدب إلى عدة أزمنة. We have Old English literature. Okay, اللي هي من سنة 450 450 to 1066, and this is very old, and I told you that you cannot possibly read the texts if you have no idea what Old English is. So if you see an Old English text you cannot read it. إذا شفنا نصوص من هاي الحقبة الزمنية ما ممكن نقراها إذا ما عندنا معرفة أو تعليم زائد عن هذا أو عن هذه التكست. من ثم عندنا medieval English literature، هاي اتفقنا عليها. When we said last year we have Oedipus, we have the Summoning of Everyman. These are the medieval English literature pieces, okay, which was actually a dark, we said this was the dark age, right? Very few literary pieces actually survived. يعني كلش قليل من الأعمال الأدبية هنا ممكن أن يعني نلقاها بهذه الحقبة الزمنية. يعني الأغلب الأحيان يا أما الأعمال الأدبية ضاعت بهاي الفترة، يا أما سرقت، أوكي، يعني مفقودة، يا أما أصلاً ما حد كان إله إمكانية أو ما حد كان إله رغبة في خلينا نقول نشر الأعمال الأدبية. So this medieval age is actually a very poor age. This was last year. We talked about this last year. This year we're going to talk about Renaissance, or some call it Renaissance. Okay, this is actually a French word, okay, French and Latin to be specific. So you can say, or the best way to say it is Renaissance. Okay, so put some French in there. Renaissance. Okay. So this was from 1500 till 1660. We will be talking about this later on. And we have the neoclassical era. Okay, so this will also a period of time, or this will be again a period of time we will be talking about later on. This is the subject of this year. Then I have the Romantic era, okay, and the Victorian era. هذول راح أناقشهم بالسنة الثالثة. The Modern era and the Postmodern era. These will be discussed in the last year when you, inshallah, graduate. So these eight time periods I want you to memorize. هنا طبعا 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Where are we going to talk? We are going to talk in England, okay? This is where the changes happen. This is where the literary era of our subject will be concerned. The Renaissance and the neoclassical era. We have here, this is England, this is Ireland, and these two countries form the United Kingdom. This is the modern flag, but back in the days, in the 16th century, this was the English flag. Okay. English and Ireland, of course. The book that we will be studying is this one. I really hope that you have this book, because we are going to depend on it. And actually, I'm going to force you to read yourselves, because we are the second stage, not the first stage, sorry, anymore. Okay, we are the second stage, and you should know and force yourself to read the book. Okay. It's called English Poetry, the 16th Century, compiled and introduced by these authors and these editors. Okay, so try to take or have this book. How can we divide the syllabus? Well, I'm going to talk to you about a historical background. This is included inside the book. We have a cultural background. Okay, عندي نبذة تاريخية, عندي نبذة ثقافية, and then we are going to know the characteristics of the 16th century poetry. Okay, نعرف الخصائص, ومن بعدها عندي 16th century poems. أو نتعرف على القصائد في هذه الحقبة الزمنية. So, anything. Okay, now we're going to start with the historical background of the 16th century, and we know that both or anything has a negative side and a positive side. So the negative side was always in this age was about war, about this, the throne, okay? المعارك اللي كانت تحدث والحروب كان دائما سببها العرش الملكي. Okay, هذه سببت الحقبة الزمنية أن نقول عليها بها negative هواية. There is so many negative things that happened in this century, all because of this, because of the crown, because of the throne. So fights over the throne and times of war. Okay, يعني الشعب كان كله في حالة حرب بسبب المشاكل عن العرش أو المملكة. تمام. Now, we also had a positive side, of course. Anything has a positive side. So what were the positive things? Actually, new things were invented and discovered in this era. Okay, so we have not only the wars that were going on, we also had the inventions of new things, and we will discuss this further on. So let's talk about the negative side. We have the negative things that were going on. We said wars. Now, one of the most powerful wars that happened, or series of wars actually, were called the Wars of Roses. Okay, and we said that it was all about the crown, all about the throne. كل المشاكل اللي صارت هي عبارة عن حروب، مجموعة من الحروب. أبرزها كان Wars of Roses الأكثر معروفة بهذه الحقبة الزمنية، كانت الحروب ذات الورود. Okay, so ليش سميت بهذا الاسم؟ Why is it called Wars of Roses? Because the fight was between two families. Okay, it was a big family, but two families into the big. Okay, شايفين عائلة أو عوائل من ضمن عشيرة واحدة. هذا بالضبط اللي صار. صارت عركة العوائل من ضمن العشيرة الواحدة. Okay, this is the best thing or the best explanation I can give. So عائلة معينة كان رمزها الوردة الحمراء، وعائلة معينة من ضمن العشيرة كان رمزها الوردة البيضاء. So صارت المعركة بين الحمراء والبيضاء. Sorry. Okay, so we had a fight between the red rose and the white rose. So who was the red rose? It was the Lancasters. Okay, نسميهم Lancaster. And the white rose were this ones, okay, right here, which were right here. Yes, it started here. Come on, sorry, the Yorks. No, okay, these were the Yorks. So between York and Lancaster, this was the fight. So المشكلة كانت في زمن Edward III. Okay, he was a good king, but he died. Okay, so بالعادة إذا ملك يتوفى، إما يروح العرش إلى الابن الأكبر اللي هو هنا Edward the Black Prince. Okay, لكن من توفى هذا الملك, this one was already dead. هذا متوفي قبل الوالد. Okay, so عندما توفي هذا الملك, he gave the throne to Richard, or to his grandson Richard II. Okay, so the other sons were upset. Why do you give it to the grandson? We are the people who deserve to be king. Okay, احنا ليش تعطيه حفيدك؟ احنا أولادك. Okay, so they started to fight with Richard III. No, not Richard. Okay, started to fight with him until they took away the throne. Okay, he was forced out of the throne. Okay, who became the king? This one, Henry IV, became the king, followed by Henry V, followed by Henry the sixth. Sorry. Okay, and then the Lancasters أخذوا العرش من ريتشارد هنا وأخذوا الملوكية إلهم. So from one to the other, until many other fights broke out. Okay, for more details, of course, you can look this up, which I prefer because this fight is not included in your syllabus, but only you should know that eventually this one started to fight with these personalities, and in the end we have here, this was the winner of the fight. King Henry VII. Okay, he was the winner of the crown. Okay, so هسه عندي احفظها. Henry, we said here الأرقام الرومانية تنحفظ. This V is 5, 6, 7. Okay, so Henry VII. So was everyone happy of this change, of this crown, of this personality, Henry VII? No, not everyone was happy. There were actually two major characters who tried to take away the throne. Okay, So King Henry VII eventually came to the throne at 30 years old. Okay, so كان عمره Henry VII 30 سنة من استلم العرش في 1485 after the Wars of Roses ended and the English people were so tired because of these civil wars. Okay, Henry VII wanted unity and peace, but two rebellions came up. إذن من اللي عارض عندي هاي الثورات الثنين هذولا اللي أيضا حصلت حتى تنتزع الملوكية من Henry VII. So the first one was Simnel or Simnel's rebellion in ثورة Simnel. منو هذا Simnel? Lambert Simnel. He claimed to be the Earl of Warwick and the rightful king and descendant from Richard III. إذن هو شنو؟ هو شخصية اعتيادية. لامبرت سيمنل هو شخصية اعتيادية لكن تقمص شخصية Earl of Warwick. أوكي، تقمص شخصية Earl of Warwick يعني فد شخصية مرموقة جدا. أوكي، لكن هو شنو ادعى أنه هاي الشخصية المعروفة. زين. And he said, I am the rightful king instead of Richard VII. Okay, and I should be, in fact, the king. So the Irish people, okay, نرجع للخريطة. So the Irish people هنا من ادعى هاي الشخصية إنه هو the Earl of Warwick, they believed him. So they said, yes, you are our king. But the people of England did not believe him. Okay, so eventually he was not the real person and King Henry took him down by presenting the real Earl of Warwick. Okay, بوقتها قال King Henry, no, you are not the real person. أنت مو Earl of Warwick. أنت فقط تتقمص هاي الشخصية. هاي الشخصية موجودة بالسجن. Okay, so he presented the people the real Earl of Warwick. He said, قال يا ناس هذولا أو هذا الشخصية غير حقيقية. الشخصية الحقيقية هو في السجن حقيقة. أوكي، فأخرج هذا الشخص الحقيقي من السجن the Earl of Warwick. Okay, and told them that he was a liar. So since he was a liar, his rebellion ended and he was imprisoned. Okay. النتيجة King Henry ما خسر العرش. King Henry VII ما خسر العرش and he remained the king. So another character was Warbeck. Okay, Warbeck also had a rebellion. Okay, who is Warbeck? Perkin Warbeck. Okay, هو شنو? He claimed to be Richard, Duke of York. Okay, هو أيضا تقمص شخصية Duke of York. أيضا حصل على الكثير من support. He had a lot of support and was able to weaken King Henry VII. إذن قدر أن يضعف من حالة King Henry. لكن could he win the throne? He couldn't take over the throne, however. Okay, فشل. He landed in Cornwall with Irish followers in 1497. Okay, so he had an army of Irish followers in this year, but all of them left. Okay, يعني هو شكل جيش لكن كلهم أخير شي خانوا وتركوا. And Warbeck was imprisoned and executed. إذن نتيجته جدا تعيسة. سجنوه وفترة بعد فترة he was beheaded. He was executed and killed very viciously. So النتيجة أيضا مرة أخرى King Henry VII remained the king until he died. So what can we understand from his power? Okay, we can say that he followed the feudal system. Okay, هو ما كان فقط قوي ضد المعارضين، كان أيضا مرتب المجتمع كان بهذه الهيئة. Okay, خلينا نشوف المجتمع البريطاني. It was divided into three parts. Okay, the royals right here, which is the king and the queen and the family. Okay, واللي هو الجزء الأعلى من الهرم. We call it the upper class. Okay, صح أنه هو صغير مقارنة بالأقسام الأخرى، لكن لأنه هذولا فقط عدة أشخاص، فقط king, queen and the other family members. This is also called the upper class. Try to memorize that. Then we have the nobles, okay? Beside them, these are also the rich people. We have the ministers, the priests, we have the merchants, the landowners. These are the nobles and the famous people. And then we have the commoners. Okay, هذول الجزء الأكبر من المجتمع مثل ما تشوفون. Okay, الناس الاعتيادية أو الناس اللي تحت مستوى الفقر أو تحت مستوى الفقر دولة. These people work for the nobles and work for the royals. Okay, so what was the system called? This system was called the feudal system. هذه تنحفظ. Okay, this pyramid represents the feudal system. Okay, what does it mean? Okay, more details. It means that the noble gave the common people a place to live. إذن هاي المجتمع شلون مرتب. عندي the commoners live on the lands of the nobles. Okay, هذول وين عايشين؟ commoners. طبعا هم ما عندهم أرض يملكوها ويعيشون بها. No, they don't have any land. So where do they live? They live on the land of the nobles and the royals. Okay, so عايشين على هذا الأرض أو أرض الnobles والroyals. Okay. So, do they live there for free? تعتقدون أنه يعيشون وياهم مجانا? No, of course not. In return, they must work for them. Okay? في المقابل, okay, you can live with us. Okay, ممكن تعيشون ويانا. لكن بالمقابل نريد من عندكم شنو؟ You have to protect us. Okay? يعني في أيام الحرب إذا مثلا أكو حرب ضد بريطانيا مثلا راح يستدعون الكومنرز يقولون yes, come up and fight for us. Okay? So صح إحنا نعطيك أو صح نعطيكم أنتوا الكومنرز أراضي لكن بالمقابل أنتوا تحمونا أنتوا اللي تخدمونا. Okay? So هو تبادل منفعة. Okay. So this is called the feudal system. Okay? Again, the noble gave the common people a place to live. Okay? نعطيكم مكان تعيشوا بيه, but in return, you must protect us, okay? And work for us. So this is called the feudal system. زين. Do you think that this is safe? Okay, King Henry. Okay, we are going to talk about King Henry. Is this actually a safe matter? Well, King Henry thinks it's not. It's not a safe manner. Okay, ليش ما أعتقد أو ليش أعتقد إنه أو هذا الفيودال سيستم شيء خطر بالنسبة إله. Okay, King Henry took away this power by forcing heavy taxes on the nobles. Okay, so King Henry كان خايف جدا. Okay, خايف منين؟ خايف من النوبلز. Okay, يقول إذا النوبلز عندهم followers. Okay, the nobles have followers. So maybe one day the commoners and the nobles will agree with each other and take me down. Okay, so كانوا خايفين إنه الcommoners والnobles يعملون معا ضد الملوكية. So he said, how can I take their money away? So he took away his power or this power by forcing heavy taxes on the nobles. Okay, so قال راح أفرض عليهم ضرائب قوية حتى أيضا يضعف مستواهم ويعودون إلى كونهم commoners. Okay, so they were required to follow laws and forced strict punishment for whoever disobeyed. بالإضافة إلى ذلك فرض عليهم مو بس التاكسز, فرض عليهم شنو؟ laws, punishment. Okay, عقوبات معينة, قوانين معينة. Okay, حتى شنو؟ دائما ما يحسسهم بقوة حتى لا يتجاوزون على royals. Okay, هذا هو King Henry VII. So if he didn't do so, the followers of the noble man could threaten the king. قلنا إذا ما يسوي هيك كان مجبر على هذا الشيء حتى شنو؟ لا يحس إنه ممكن في يوم من الأيام قلنا يتفقون مع بعض ضد الملك. So King Henry VII became wealthy and passed it on to his son after he died. إذن طبعا من قام ياخذ من عندهم taxes, he became even more rich. Okay, he became richer and richer and richer until he died. King Henry VII died and he gave it to his son, King Henry VIII. Okay. Which is this guy. Okay. طبعا هاي الشخصية على المحاضرة الثانية. أتمنى استفادتوا. مختصر مفيد اللي تحدثنا عنه اليوم هو التالي. قسمنا literature إلى 2 types. Okay. We know now the difference between the prose and poetry. I gave you this example to make it even clearer. Then we said that the literary timeline has 8 parts. Okay. The location we're talking in England and in Ireland. This is the book you should have. This is the parts we will be studying. And we have the historical background, and we are talking about the negative side and the wars that happened. Here, this is the major war that is known, the Wars of Roses that happened, and Henry VII was the victorious king. But some people were not happy. We have Simnel and Warbeck. They formed rebellions against King Henry VII, but they were not successful. And King Henry's power was so great that he took down the feudal system and forced taxes on all the people right here. He became rich and all the other people became poor. Why? Because he did not accept to be threatened by any one of these other 2 classes. Okay? ما راد يحس إنه ممكن في يوم من الأيام يصير تجاوز بينهم أو مع بعضهم ضد الملوكية. So this is what I want you to know for today's lecture. If you have any further questions, please try to contact me on Telegram and I'll be happy to answer any of the questions that you have. Thank you so much for listening and I wish you a great day.